Carmen Basilio's pro career didn't tiptoe into the spotlight. It burst through the ropes like a storm. On November 24, 1948, in a smoky hall in Binghamton, New York, he introduced himself by flooring Jimmy Evans in the third round. That wasn't enough. Just 5 days later, Basilio came back hungry and took down Bruce Walters in just one round. 4 fights done before the year ended. This kid wasn't just active, he was on fire. But 1949 wasn't all easy pickings. He kicked off the year with back-to-back draws. First against Johnny Cunningham, then Jay Perlin. That didn't stop him. For his first 24 fights, he stayed rooted in New York, battling like a man trying to make a name. He carved out a 19-3-2 record, each bout sharpening him like a blade. His first taste of defeat came on May 2nd, 1949, a 6-round decision loss to Connie Thies. But Basilio wasn't one to sulk. He kept moving forward. He and Cunningham, that was a real rivalry. They met 3 more times in those early years. Basilio crushed him in 2 rounds in their second meeting. Cunningham took the third on points. But in their 4th and final clash, Basilio outboxed him over 8 rounds. That was personal. Then came 1950. Bigger names started showing up. Basilio took on former world champ Lou Jenkins and beat him over 10 full rounds. That was a message to the boxing world. This farm boy from Canastota was no stepping stone. After 24 fights in his home state, Basilio was itching for a new stage. So, he hit the road to New Orleans. In his debut down south, he met Gabby Furland, a tough customer who held him to a draw. That didn't sit right. They met again, and this time Basilio flattened him in the first round. He also handled Guillermo Gimenez twice, both knockouts, one in 8 rounds, the other in 9. But it wasn't all smooth. Before heading back to New York, he lost a close 10-rounder to Eddie Giosa. Over his next 7 bouts, Basilio hit a rough patch. 3 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. But true to form, he circled back and beat Giosa on his own turf in Syracuse. Then came 1952. 9 fights that year. He stacked up 6 wins, including a solid showing against Jimmy Cousins. But he also ran into 2 slippery fighters, Chuck Davey and Billy Graham. Davey gave him a tough night, and they drew in their first clash before Davey edged him in the rematch. Through the wins, losses, and razor-thin decisions, one thing was clear. Carmen Basilio wasn't fading into boxing's background. He was sharpening his tools, testing his limits, and setting the stage for something much bigger. By 1953, Carmen Basilio wasn't just climbing the ranks, he was tearing through them. The skinny kid from Canastota had become a serious threat in the welterweight division, and now, the big fights were coming fast. Before he could even think about a world title, Basilio had some ghosts to settle. He went toe-to-toe with the legendary Ike Williams, a former world lightweight champion known for his punching power, and Basilio outshined him. Then came more unfinished business with Billy Graham. They had 2 more wars. In the second fight, Basilio left no doubt, winning on the cards after 12 tough rounds. Their third clash ended in a draw, but the message was clear. Basilio was no longer chasing. He was catching up. Then came the moment every fighter dreams of, a shot at the world title. Across the ring stood Kid Gavilan, the Cuban legend with fast hands and a granite chin. Basilio fought with everything he had, pushed Gavilan to the brink over 15 fierce rounds. But the decision went to the champion. Basilio didn't pout. He didn't hide. He went right back to work. Next, it was old rival Johnny Cunningham again, their 4th dance. Basilio ended it in brutal fashion, knocking Cunningham out in 4 rounds. And then came a new name, Pierre Langlois, a slick Frenchman. Their first encounter ended in a draw, sparking a brand new rivalry. In 1954, Basilio was like a machine. 8 fights, no losses. He went 7-0-1 with 2 knockouts. Most importantly, he got his revenge on Langlois in the rematch, outworking him over 10 solid rounds and walking away with the win. At this point, Basilio wasn't just winning, he was evolving. With every punch, every round, he was becoming the kind of fighter you couldn't ignore. The kind of fighter who doesn't just fight for titles, he fights to leave a mark. By 1955, Carmen Basilio had clawed his way back to the top. He kicked off the year by outlasting Peter Muller over 10 rounds, a fight that kept him in the hunt. Soon after, He was right back where he belonged, as the #1 contender. On June 10th, he got his second crack at the crown. Across from him stood the reigning welterweight champion, Tony DeMarco, a brawler with dynamite in both hands. But Basilio came in like a man possessed. They traded leather in a brutal war, but Basilio broke him down round by round. Then, in the 12th, he closed the show. DeMarco crumbled, and Basilio stood tall, the new world welterweight champion. He wasn't content with just wearing the crown. He tested himself in non-title bouts, including a tough decision win over Gil Turner. Then, the rematch, Basilio versus DeMarco 2. Same fighters, same hunger, same result. Basilio took him out in the 12th again. It wasn't luck, it was dominance. But in 1956, the glory took a hit. In Chicago, Basilio defended his title against Johnny Saxton, a fighter whose manager, Frank "Blinky" Palermo, had deep ties to the mob. The fight went the distance, and when the decision was announced in Saxton's favor, Basilio stood in disbelief. It was like being robbed in a dark alley, he said. Fans knew it. Basilio knew it. The fight had been stolen. He didn't whine. He went to work. They fought again, this time in Basilio's backyard, Syracuse. Carmen fought with fury and got his revenge, stopping Saxton in 9 rounds. Just to make sure the message stuck, they fought a rubber match. Basilio made it quick, a knockout in 2. But Basilio wasn't done making history. He set his sights higher, literally, moving up in weight to take on the great Sugar Ray Robinson. At 36, Robinson was older, but still a master. On September 23, 1957, the two men waged war for 15 unforgettable rounds. When the dust settled, Basilio had done it. New world middleweight champion. He had taken down one of the greatest fighters who ever lived. The very next day, boxing rules forced him to drop the welterweight title. But no matter. Basilio had climbed 2 mountains and conquered them both. In that same year, the world took notice. Basilio was awarded the Hickok belt, crowned as the top professional athlete in all sports. Carmen Basilio wasn't just a champion. He was the kind of fighter fans never forgot. A warrior who never backed down, never looked for shortcuts, and never stopped coming forward. By 1958, Carmen Basilio had shaken the boxing world. But one name still loomed large, Sugar Ray Robinson. On March 25th, the two stepped into the ring for a rematch. Their first bout was already iconic, but this one would be remembered for all the wrong reasons. From the 6th round on, Basilio fought blind in one eye. Robinson had battered it shut, yet Basilio kept charging forward, round after brutal round. The fight went the distance, 15 grueling rounds, and when it was over, the judges gave it to Robinson by a razor-thin and controversial split decision. One judge had it 71 to 64.5 for Robinson, another 72 to 64. But the referee saw it for Basilio, 66 to 69. Ringside reporters were stunned. Many believed Carmen had done enough. But the belt slipped away. After that heartbreak, Basilio fought less often, but when he did, he aimed high. He chased the middleweight crown 3 more times. Twice, he stood across from the rugged Gene Fullmer. Their first clash in San Francisco ended in the 14th. Basilio stopped on his feet. In the rematch in Utah, it ended in the 12th, Fullmer again getting the win. Basilio kept swinging, and between those title fights, he reminded fans who he was. He knocked out Art Aragon in 8 and outpointed former champion Don Jordan over 10 rounds. But his final shot came against Paul Pender. It was a technical, cautious fight. Pender edged it on points. That was Carmen Basilio's last fight, and the curtain closed on a warrior's career. But he wasn't finished fighting, not by a long shot. In 1960, Basilio stepped into a different kind of ring, a courtroom. He sat before the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Antitrust and Monopoly and told the truth. The ugly truth. He revealed how the mob infected boxing, how men like Frankie Carbo and Blinky Palermo pulled the strings, how title shots weren't just earned in the ring, they were bought. Basilio's own managers, he said, paid over $60,000 to Gabriel Genovese, a cousin of mafia boss Vito Genovese, just to get him his chance. Carmen didn't just fight for titles. He fought for boxing's soul. He retired with a record of 56 wins, 16 losses, 7 draws, and 27 knockouts. But those numbers barely scratched the surface. Carmen Basilio was a throwback, a walk-through hell kind of fighter. And even when the lights faded, he never stopped swinging for what was right. After hanging up the gloves, Carmen Basilio returned to a quieter life, but not without purpose. He took a job at the Genesee Brewery in Rochester, New York, blending in with working folks just like he always had. Later, the kid who once dropped out of high school became something he never expected, a teacher. At Lemoyne College in Syracuse, he taught physical education, shaping young minds with the same toughness and honesty he carried into the ring. A proud Marine Corps veteran, Basilio knew what it meant to serve, not just a country, but a community. Even in retirement, he kept busy, selling for a local sausage company, often confused with one run by his brother, Paul. He stayed close to home, close to family, and never lost touch with the people who supported him. In the 1970s, the Basilio bloodline produced another champion, his nephew, Billy Backus. Billy had stumbled early in his career, but he fought back and became the world welterweight champion. On the night Billy won the title, Carmen said something that revealed everything about the man. "This means more to me than when I won it myself." Then came the honor that would immortalize his legacy. In 1990, the International Boxing Hall of Fame was built in Canastota, his hometown, and Basilio was one of the first to be enshrined. He shared the stage with many of the greats he once battled in the ring. Though his nephew Backus didn't make the hall, they stood side by side as two local boys who'd conquered the world. In the late 90s, Carmen's iron heart needed repair. He underwent triple bypass surgery, and doctors fixed what so many opponents couldn't break. Even as his health declined, he never lost that straight-shooting spirit. In an HBO documentary about Sugar Ray Robinson, Basilio gave credit where it was due, praising Robinson's skill, but made no secret of his personal feelings. "I didn't like him." In 2010, his story and his hometown's fighting legacy were cemented in print with Titletown, USA, Boxing in Upstate New York, a book that honored both Basilio and Backus as the beating heart of Canastota's boxing soul. Carmen Basilio passed away in 2012 at the age of 85. He left behind his wife, Josephine, a proud family, and a legacy that refuses to fade. He wasn't just a champion in the ring. He was a fighter for life, for family, and for something bigger than titles. He was the kind of man who never needed a shout to be heard, because everything he did, every round he fought, every truth he told, spoke louder than words ever could. Carmen Basilio wasn't just a champion. He was a symbol of everything boxing used to be: raw, honest, and real. He came from a small town with big fists and an even bigger heart. He took on legends, battled corruption, and stood toe-to-toe with the greatest, not just in the ring, but in life. He didn't need fancy talk or flash. He earned respect the hard way, with blood, bruises, and unshakable courage. From the factory floors to the halls of fame, from the roar of the crowd to the quiet pride of seeing his nephew become champion, Carmen Basilio lived a life that mattered. He was a fighter's fighter, and long after the gloves came off, his story still punches through, not just as a champion of titles, but as a champion of truth, loyalty, and heart. Carmen Basilio, a warrior from Canastota, a legend forever.